Welcome to Cybersecurity Refined and Feral, where refinement meets chaos in the digital world. We invite you to join your co-hosts Candy Alexander and Kaylin Sullivan in another open conversation on topics related to cybersecurity.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Cybersecurity Refined and Feral. I know who's a little feral today. I'm Candy Alexander.
And I'm Kaylin Sullivan. Thanks for joining us. We're so glad that you're here today. And yes, I am a little feral today. Today's topic is how security can be viewed in the organization. This is something that in my career, I have run into companies that view security in the org as like the Department of No or like the cops of the organization. And I have a completely different viewpoint. And this is something that I have broached with my mom on, like, how do I challenge this and how do I change this in the profession and the organization itself. So, Mom, considering that we're often the Department of No, we can be seen as roadblocks. I don't want to do that either. How can we go about changing that viewpoint in the business and in the profession overall?
So I think you got to step back and look at it as to what's causing the organization to see our role as that. Is it the way we're, delivering our, roles, jobs, or the way we perform them? Is it legacy? Is it baggage that they've brought from their past? Is it, is it also, let's face it, the Department of No is a negative connotation. It is also not healthy. It's not a good culture, right? It suggests a lot of negativity within the environment. So, you step back and really understand, is this a cybersecurity issue or is this a corporate cultural issue? Like, is it just security that has, the, title of Department of No, and our other other departments, groups within the organization, do they have a bad rap too? Is it just a toxic environment? So really trying to understand the whole environment. I know when I first started in security, a long time ago, it was the Department of No. And it's because we didn't want it's kind of like parenting. And I know I'm bouncing around, sorry, but it's kind of like parenting, right? It's like, do you allow your child to run with scissors, knowing they're going to hurt themselves? Or, and then you say, no, don't do that. And you don't tell them any reason why. You just say, don't do that. Don't run with those scissors. Give me the scissors. You're not allowed to have those scissors. Or is it, raising your child and educating your child to listen, those scissors are sharp, feel the pointy edge. And if you run with those scissors, you could fall down and that could really hurt you. And do you really want to get hurt? So you're educating that, through that experience and explaining your reasoning. And I think that over time, security has adapted that, right?
Yes. So it's more of like, instead of being the Department of No, it's the yes, but.
Exactly. I always say that. It's not the Department of No, but it's the Department of how we're going to do it safely.
Yeah. Like, you want to run with those? You want to run with those scissors? Let's put some bubble wrap around you.
Yeah, or bubble wrap around the scissors, right? I mean, there's many ways to mitigate that. So obviously for our listeners, following along, scissors and running are, that's the vulnerability is the scissors, and the probability of it, causing harm is running with scissors. So, educating the business, like, this is, again, this is the vulnerability, this is the probability because of you running, but the decision's yours.
Yeah.
But, I think as security practitioners, we take that parenting role really seriously, and we really emphasize don't do that. However, we as a profession and professionals need to step back and say, here's the information, because they're not children running with scissors,
Mm-hmm.
are they? They're adults, they're business owners, leaders. And you say, here's the risks, here's the probabilities. It's your decision.
Yeah.
We're
That's
advising,
yes.
right?
Yeah. That's one of my favorite things is I was running the IT security part of a SOC audit one time, and I was getting like no communication back from one of the main stakeholders, and I was like, all right, well, ball's in your court. Like, I'm not gonna take it personally. Like, if you don't want to do what I'm saying, like, it's up to you, man. Godspeed.
Well, yeah, I mean, and that's it. But the thing is, um, going back to being considered the department, and know that it also has caused some other things to happen in the environment, right? Like,
Mm.
we're the last to find out anything, right?
Yeah.
That's why, like, and it's not just us, it's IT as well, because I mean, let's face it, that's how shadow IT started,
Mm-hmm.
and shadow AI and everything, because like the user perception is, it's almost like we're conscious, their conscience, right?
Yeah.
And we're like advising them, well, listen, you really probably don't want to use an open AI model, or open model with our company data, because then it's out there in the world, and they don't want to hear that.
Yeah.
So guess what? They're not going to tell us,
Mm-hmm.
because that's mature, and that's really a safe thing. But that's human nature, right? It's kind of like, going back to the child scissor running analogy. Well, I just won't tell mom or dad that I've got the scissors, and I'm going to run with them if I want to,
Mm-hmm.
So it's shadow scissor running.
Yes. Yes. Yep.
So I think, we really need to, again, come out strong with the messaging of, like you had said, we're not the department of no, and it's more of, well, let's look at it, and that approach really works well with cross organizational of the same level,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like department managers. If you're a infosec manager and you approach your department managers, your colleagues, peers, that works really well, and it strengthens the relationship. But it's really hard to convey to leadership, and change their mind, because I think when we talk about leveraging our role as advisors, I'm a cyber advisor, right? I'm not anything other than that. I'm not the police, the security police. I'm not any corporate police. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I'm an advisor, right? So I think another thing that leads us to some of our challenges and perceptions of how we're seen in the organization is that we're seen as a cost center,
Mm.
a cost of doing business. And oh my gosh, are we expensive?
Yeah.
Is that how you've experienced it as well?
Yeah. I mean, at my level so far, I really haven't had to. I'm starting to get into the headspace of trying to tie the security program metrics to the business. That's not something that I had really tried to do before, because I was just like, I'm just gonna do my job. But I'm in a position now where we need to think about budgetary concerns and like return on investment for our tools and everything. So I would
So
agree.
that's kind of worrisome too, because in my opinion, everybody in the security department, in the security group, should be understanding that business alignment
Oh yeah.
and
It's
how you add value to the business and support the business, and not just like, I'm just sitting here, looking at packets all day long to make sure there's nothing going out.
yeah.
That's not expressing value.
Yeah.
You're not contributing to the value of the organization and the mission that they're trying to accomplish, right?
Yes, exactly. So looking at like how many questionnaires have we gotten that have tied to deals directly, and being able to tie that back to the business as like new deals that have been influenced by security and not reoccurring, whatever, renewals, that's what it is. How much time is spent on the security discussions and tying that into the business. It provides a lot of emphasis around how important it is.
But to take that example, right? So you just said the time spent for those conversations for security questionnaires and everything. So you're expressing a cost.
Yep.
So I would challenge you to turn it around and say, because we have been included, watch the language here, because we've been included in the sales process to close deals, we have been able to support the business to close X amount by circumventing or expediting the sales process by X months. So nowhere in that sentence or that phrase that I just mentioned was there a cost. It was a benefit. We've expedited. We've reduced sales cycle. We're a sales enabler. I didn't say anything about security.
Mm-hmm.
So it's almost like it's almost like we're narcissistic. It's all about us, right? Like when we go to report things to the business, it's like, well, we've had X million, gazillion, trillion, events per second, EPS is on the, SIM and
don't do that. Don't do that.
Whereas use the approach I just mentioned, well, through the, vendor security questionnaires, we're now in line with the sales process, expediting that closure, blah, blah, blah. So that's, again, it's all about sales. So when we talk from our support of the business, try not to talk about so much us, but say what we're doing for others, like the sales process.
Do you think that's because we are kind of a siloed department in most organizations? Like people in security might not have the visibility into other parts of the business. I know working at like one of my previous companies there was over 100 people just on the security team alone, and I had no contact with anybody outside the security org. So how do you mitigate that?
Whose fault is that?
It's not my fault.
Yes and no. I hate to say this, and please, my fellow and beloved CISOs out there, do not be throwing things at the screen because it will hurt yourself. But please message me. I challenge you. Message me. I would blame leadership, security leadership, that they should be engaging with their counterparts and encouraging individuals in the security department to engage at some level with the business, because it's also professional development for the security group, the security support staff or whatnot. So yeah, and it only supports the other negative connotation that we're hidden away in the basement. Not sometimes it is the basement, but we're hidden away, with hoodies and, Mountain Dew and Twinkies by our side, just watching the packets go through and, all of that. So, and granted, I know many of us, that's our comfort zone. I acknowledge that. I recognize that and I accept that. However, I'm a reformed, shadow person. And now, if I can overcome, those challenges of social graces. And I'm not completely, there yet. I recognize that, just like many technologists. But we need to branch out,
Yeah.
because that's, again, helps the perception that the business has. Like, we all of the security and technologists that I've interacted with, I'm sure, Ken, you would agree, we all want to help.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, we're the first ones there. Oh, sure, I'll help. So, like, leverage that. We're not scary.
Mm-hmm.
And for the security people listening to us, business people aren't scary either. It's just finding that common language and common problem to solve. And if that's sales enablement through vendor questionnaires, so be it.
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of technicalities, let's jump into how we could be perceived as alarmists. I know that I am a paranoid security person, but I rein it in because, again, it goes back to you should be looking at yourself as a consultant to the business. If they're not going to take all your information, and stick to the facts, don't be an alarmist. Nothing we do is life or death. Nobody's going to die, hopefully, unless you're doing SCADA systems. And,
Or healthcare.
yes, yeah. But have some perspective, I guess, would be my advice, right?
Well, yeah, it's hard though. I'm not gonna
Yes.
lie. I remember when I was like, oh, and it's not being an alarmist as much as excitement, shall I say? It's like, holy crap, it finally happened. All these years I've been waiting for this.
I knew it.
And yeah, I told you we were going to
Yeah.
be hacked.
I'm
Whatever.
right.
It only took 36 years, but see. But I mean, so I get it. But and I think in a warped way, that's our way to outreach to the rest of the business. It's like, finally, I've got something important to say that the business is going to listen to me. When that's really not what we want.
No.
That's not the message to be excited about, having the business listen to you. That actually is through ongoing engagement with the business, that you get that trust. The business is going to trust you. And then when you get to the point where, geez, just a heads up, we're seeing a spike in phishing trends or whatever, just heads up, be careful, whatever. So we already have that ongoing dialogue and that comfort, and we know we're being heard and respected if it's an ongoing conversation, as opposed to, like, running out of, the basement office, hoodie flying down off your shoulders and head, like, it's happening. That's definitely not what we want. So,
No.
but of course, I mean, we're being overly exaggerated. Hard to believe you and I would be exaggerating, but to a certain extent, those have happened in the past, and these are why the perceptions are there.
Yeah.
But just as any perceptions, you got to break it down and understand the why. Why is that? What caused that perception?
Yes.
Right.
Yes. Not don't download Chrome because it's going to take over your computer. It's, hey, make sure you patch up your Chrome stuff. There's lots of security vulnerabilities coming out. Yeah. Yep.
Which that brings us to another perception, right? And this happens a lot with our friends, in my experience, probably you as well, our friends over in IT or the tech crew, right? Like, whether it's coders, developers, or IT support, they always think we're out to get them and to point fingers and say, well, you did it wrong. And that's kind of sad, because it's the farthest thing from any, anything I want to happen. What about you? Have you experienced that as well?
Thankfully, at my current company, we have a blameless culture, which I mean, it's one of those things that starts from the top. If your culture is cutthroat and likes to blame people, rather, like, we like to come up with, like, yes, this was a problem, here's how it was fixed, and focus on the here's how it was fixed part. So we take that over into security too. I mean, we're all human, things happen.
Yes.
So, yeah, but yeah, I've definitely been around people that have been in a blame focused culture, which is not great.
Toxic.
Yes.
But that goes too much of what we're talking about in general is the perceptions, the negative perceptions of security are really culturally based.
Mm-hmm.
And and culture is hard to change. Let's face it. And it's not anything that, shall I say, like a security analyst can do on their own.
Yeah, no.
Not that we all individually don't have a contribution to change in culture, but excuse me, it goes back to how you said you worked for an organization with over 100 security people and nobody knew you didn't even know who each other were all the time, never outside. So that's leadership. So yeah. So what are some ways that we want to be perceived, or some healthy perceptions of the cybersecurity function within an organization? If you were able to have your little magic wand and just bing and have, utopia, cybersecurity utopia within the organization, what would that look like?
I hate to say it, but I think I'm kind of there with the security culture at my current job. We're viewed as like helpers and protectors of the org. We're there for partnership, whether that's helping, like getting on a customer call, or even helping somebody with their personal devices, securing them, and making sure that they're all updated. I personally, if Apple comes out with updates, I tell everybody to update their iPhones, even though we don't use them, just as like a, hey, heads up, this is happening. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think that's when, like you said, you've made it. You've made it, to the point where you're now valued within the organization, as opposed to seen as like the Department of No and alarmist and all the ones we just saw. I know. I've quote unquote been successful or made it when, like the CEO, they reach out to me and is like, Candy, is it okay?
Yeah.
Is it okay if I travel with my laptop or whatever? What do I need to do before I leave?
Mm-hmm.
What do you recommend? And it's like, let me help you.
Yes.
Right? I mean, that's all any of us cyber people want to do. Or, this was a huge milestone and indicator of success when a business I was working with in support of, they came back and shared with myself and my colleagues what their strategic 5-year roadmap was. And so I took that and I laid out what the considerations of risk should be. And for those risks, here's what you've already put in towards mitigation, and here's what you need to do a little bit more. Should you choose to invest in it to make that a successful, more secure experience. So, by them sharing that and bringing me in on, that view, that was amazing.
Yeah.
Because usually we find out after the fact, by the way, we're going to, switch to, this like Google tablets for everyone. It's like, why would you do that?
Mm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
here's why you shouldn't. So it's nice to get in front of business decisions and not direct them, not tell them where they should go, but just lay out, well, here are your options, you know?
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Um,
Huge sign of trust too. It all
yeah,
comes down to trust. Yeah.
yes, absolutely.
I don't.
Absolutely. That trust, just like human, rapports and relationships, that doesn't just happen overnight. I think that that's something that security people need to understand is that building that trusted relationship rapport with the business community takes time and nurturing and feeding.
Cultivated, and even after you have it, it's so easily destroyed or damaged. So tread, like, that's always one of my things is I don't want to do something that's gonna, damage any kind of trust that I have with the employees or the business itself.
That really brings up a really good point that I didn't think of. And there was a point in my career, especially when you first start a job, right, where you would advise them to do X. And then something happens, and then their trust in you, your credibility, trust and credibility are almost hand in hand, almost. And then they don't trust you so much again. And it takes a lot to get that trust back, even though it might not entirely be your demise. It wasn't, directly because of you. But if you're even associated, that sometimes, and again, it goes back to the culture, and it goes back even to the industry and sector of business you're working in.
Yeah.
Trust, once it's lost, it's really hard to be regained. And it's patience and perseverance, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Have you ever been in a position that's happened?
Long time ago.
Yeah.
And it was just a really bad, toxic environment,
Yeah.
period.
Yeah.
Where it was an environment, by the way, when we talk about those negative connotations or negative perspectives, it was a toxic, backstabbing, blaming culture.
Yeah.
And that's why, I think it only emphasized the lack of trust or the immediate loss of trust.
Yeah.
Like, and blame. Oh, it was your fault. Oh.
Okay.
But it's hard to change perceptions.
Yeah. At that point, it's almost better. I mean, you would have to just get another job at that point. Because
it depends. Well, there's been a lot of CISOs in our profession that have suffered those ramifications because of events that have happened in organizations.
Yes.
Unfairly, I believe.
Yeah, I would have to agree. That's a whole nother topic for a whole nother episode we should do.
I know we should. Yeah. Like, why is it just the CISO in the hot seat?
Yeah.
Because again, it goes back to we're advisors. We do not make those business decisions. It's not our decision to make. We are not responsible for the organization.
Yeah.
So why should we take the blame? And so, yes, I do agree we should do an episode on just that conversation. Make note of that. But at the same time, it also happens when, in the earlier stages of your career.
Yeah.
And you just need to be really aware of that. And believe me, there's warning signs.
Yeah.
There's, this just doesn't feel right. And, if you find yourself in those situations, you need to reach out and talk to somebody and get some guidance, whether it's from your management, whether it's from somebody you have a good rapport with within the organization. But you that was my problem. That's where I failed.
Mhm.
I bottled up. I have a tendency when, things are going crazy, I'll put up the walls and I'll be quiet and not say anything. And that's not healthy because
Yeah.
let's face it, maybe, this is another, TMI, too much information about Candy Alexander. But this is kind of like, therapy session here.
Mm.
But it's, that's my bad. I need to learn how to articulate and not defend myself, but to
Advocate.
calmly, be an advocate for myself and not, and not defend myself because defense could be negative. It
Yeah.
comes off negative.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
And have you been put into have you come into that type of situation?
I don't think so. Because I've
That's
always
good.
just been like, you don't care about it, why? I'm not going to waste my energy. But I don't.
I've never seen that side of you.
There have been times, I took a server down one time in my last company running a vulnerability scan. It was down for like 2 hours, but we immediately were like, hey, that was us. So sorry, guys. I thought it was funny, but it's not funny, but it was funny. It's like just doing some testing, some backup and recovery testing. But yeah, thankfully, I don't know. I feel like maybe it's gotten a lot better since the earlier stages of your career, where culturally even we've moved more into like empathetic, and like management is more empathetic, and
not everywhere.
That's true. But I also, I don't know, I'm kind of obnoxious at times when.
Well, I think you hit on one aspect that I think would be helpful is that when it is your fault,
Yes, admit it. Yeah, that's my favorite part. Hey, yeah, I screwed that up. Sorry about that, guys. Maybe it's the attention thing. I just want the attention, so I'm like, yeah, that was me. Just kidding. I'm just kidding. But no, being accountable. A lot of people are not like that. So that's always. Yes, that's always been. I've always thought is one of my strong suits, because if I'm not going to admit that I did something wrong, how am I going to learn from it?
Well, then you get like, let's take the scenario of you have a toxic environment, backstabbing, blaming, and all that. And if you are the one to say, it was me, I'm sorry, it was a mistake, it was not intentional, I've already fixed it, or I'm going to fix it, and here's how. If you become known as that individual that you never deny when it was something you did, then you automatically, in my opinion, are on a different plane.
You're cultivating trust, like unconsciously, like cultivating trust. It just popped into my head
as opposed to sitting there and like looking around. Was me, like, remember our dog Lulu, did you do this? And she would immediately look this way and we knew it was her. So was but that's that's an interesting way of understanding that and how to overcome that and get the trust, because it really also comes down to our it's more our attributes and characteristics of cybersecurity professionals. We want to help. We're honest to a fault. We just want to protect the organization, make sure that nobody gets hurt, like that type of thing. And I think that sometimes those qualities are misunderstood.
Yeah,
because we're pretty strong about them.
Yes, I have a very strong sense of justice. Yeah, yep.
Oh, that's funny, but not. Yeah, and so, So I'm looking at our notes and I'm looking at, the topic of neutral perceptions. And I'm
Mm.
really not sure if I would agree as them being neutral as opposed to maybe, I don't know, they're not quite accurate. Of course, I think that. And the first one is necessary evil that, and yeah, I mean, I see that actually as a negative
Yeah.
because, again, necessary evil. Everybody understands nowadays you have to have a cybersecurity function, whether you have a dedicated person or not. You got to put some money towards, EDR or MDR, XDR, SIM tech. You have to spend money to protect yourselves in
Mm-hmm.
this world we live in. And so saying that we're a necessary evil is kind of like, again, looking at it as a cost center, as
Mm-hmm.
opposed to turning that around and understanding your you're making investments and it's just necessary, period. It's not evil, it's necessary. Unfortunately, it's not our fault you need to hire us. It's the world and society we live in. It's kind of like, buying a house and having to, or wanting to put in a security system. Pick one or put cameras in. Is
Or
that
a
a necessary?
car with some
Yeah,
airbags. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
right. It's just reducing your risk.
Yeah.
And I don't think of that as being an evil thing. And I
Yeah.
know it's a terminology, but again, it's changing that perception, looking at the negative connotation of that, and then turning it into positive, kind of like a cost center. Or when you said that about the security questionnaires, you spend so much time, blah blah blah, but it does help sales. Well, no, don't even say that. Just say you're a sales enabler and you've been able to close X amount of sales deals because of blah blah blah. So
Mm-hmm.
it's the negative and choosing to look at the positive. And it all starts with us, the way we articulate our value, right?
Yeah.
And not like you need security to be compliant with, GDPR.
Yeah. Because there's lots of checkbox compliance programs out there. I'm of the mindset that if I'm going to spend time doing compliance stuff, it's going to actually mean something and not just a checkbox.
Right. It supports the business.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's, brings back to the old point of, security through compliance and compliance checklists. Yeah, you need to do it, sure, but not really, because you can just pay the fines if,
Mm-hmm.
You're that successful of a business. Or you can, and it's the proactive versus reactive approach, right? I choose to be proactive. So, we are going to enable the business to be able to expand into Europe safely and confidently and with minimal monetary risk because we're GDR compliant, and I'm going to help you do that.
Mm-hmm.
That's the message.
Yep. Yep. Exactly. Yeah.
And I guess the other neutral, it says on our notes, perception is tech support. That we're really technical people.
Oh.
And yeah, I mean, I've pulled my weight, but I actually have the opposite. People think that I'm not technical.
Wow.
And it kind of makes me laugh because, probably have a lot more technical skills than, a lot of people out there. But the thing is that I've chosen to use common language and common
Yeah.
approaches so that I'm understood. Because sure, I can use big words and speak the techies and all of that, but is that really? And why do we do that? To look smart and
Yeah.
really intelligent. My whole purpose is to help, and I want people to understand me as opposed to think how smart I am, because it's through them understanding me they will know I'm brilliant.
Yes. Exactly. Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
So what do you think? Did we hit all the spots on how an organization sees us? Shall we move into what is some things that we can do? Shall we wrap it up with some takeaways?
Yeah, for sure. I think one takeaway that I've always had from our talks about this kind of stuff is it starts with the management and the culture of the business itself. If the business is, I don't think there's any business out there that is just toxic in one department.
Right.
Either the whole thing is rotten or the whole thing's good. So being able to lean and appreciate those companies out there that do have a really good culture is something to strive for. Then the second thing that I think I've always taken away is just really remembering that we are advisors. We present the risks, and it's up to the business to do what they want with those risks. If you want to accept them, cool. Sign off on this piece of paper. Thank you.
Right. And I think, I'll go down deeper a level and, say that we need to change our language and our self-perceptions. Get out there into the business, talk with the business, and don't you do all the talking. They say some of the best communicators are really good at listening. And so we need to hear what the business goals and objectives are, and then pull that in, digest it, and understand what is it that we do that we can do to support that goal and objective, because there are linkages. It just takes a lot of practice for us to do that shift. And then that's just it. The other thing is take those negative shifts, negative connotations of what our perception is, and turn that around. Again, I'll go back to that security questionnaire. A lot of organizations say, I get so many security questionnaires. I could, hire 2 FTEs, full-time employees, to just answer those questionnaires. We're overwhelmed. So that's a good problem to have, because that means your skills in your pipeline is really healthy. So rather than complain about filling out all those questionnaires, it's get on those questionnaires so you can go into the boardroom, you can go to the executive level management and say, we banged out all of these questionnaires, which shorten the sales cycle by X amount, and we were able to support sales in closing those deals, which equated to X amount of revenue generated, which then now you are a department that they can't live without.
Yeah.
So stop complaining about the negatives and look to see how we can turn it into gold for ourselves, our reputation, and supporting the business. Okay.
Yep. Perfectly done.
So with that, we hope that you all have enjoyed our conversation and you found some insights that you can take away and hopefully use. We would really like to get your thoughts. And again, our purpose in these episodes is to start the conversation and not have it end with our recordings, but to carry those conversations amongst yourself. Or if you want to reach out to Kaylin and I, we're on LinkedIn, or you can comment to our posts in social media, or of course you can, look for our personal emails. We're pretty open about that. So direct message us through social media, and we can share those emails with you. And above all, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Share with your friends. Give us a thumbs up. And with that, we'll go ahead and close it out and say, until next time, stay secure, stay refined, and
Don't be afraid to get a little bit feral.
Thank you, everyone.